Welcome to the Minnesota State High School League Volleyball Rules Review. My name is Christina Fabick. I am the Metro Rules Interpreter. Whether you're a rookie or a veteran, you will benefit by reviewing the rules at the beginning of every season. This module was created to help increase consistency across the state. We're going to review the rules by going over a match starting when you arrive at the venue. Coordinate with your partner several days before the match, making sure you follow any standards set by your local assigner. Make sure you arrive no less than 30 minutes prior to the scheduled start time. It is preferable to have both referees meet and enter the match site together. Immediately upon arrival, meet with the site manager. Make sure you ask if there will be an intermission or special event. Find out where in the gym the site manager will be during the match so that you can quickly locate them if needed. Ask if they have medical on site and where they are located. If an injury arises and a trainer is needed, it's important to know beforehand that you're sharing them with football and they're outside on the field. Additionally, discuss any questions you have about playable area and address any equipment that needs padding or adjusting. Officials should evaluate the match site and determine playable and non-playable area. Keep risk minimization and fairness in mind with the application of the rules. Work with host management to fix any problems. State or regional assigners may create and provide a compilation of ground rules for each school prior to each season to help mitigate potential confusion among refs from night to night. Equipment safety is a shared responsibility between host school management and the referees. The match cannot be played unless the minimum safety requirements for the referee stand, standards, and cables are met. The referee's platform should be safe and stable to protect the first referee and players. This begins with proper installation following manufacturer guidelines by the host school. It continues with proper inspection by the first referee immediately upon arrival courtside 30 minutes prior to the match, so necessary adjustments can be made if necessary. Make it a habit to check the net height, antenna locations, standards, and cable padding, and climb up onto the stand as early as possible upon arrival courtside. This allows plenty of time to make changes if needed. The front and sides of the referee stand and both standards must be padded with at least 1-inch thick resilient shock-absorbing material to a minimum of 5.5 feet in height. We've had reports statewide of referee stands that are not padded correctly. Please work with host management to ensure this is corrected for player safety. Rigid cables must be covered to a minimum height of 5.5 feet. Please make sure all metal pieces on the lower net cables are covered. It's also recommended that stand height be adjustable. In order for the first referee to correctly identify the height of the ball when it's being sent across the net during play, their eyes must be at the correct height based on their height. Sometimes we see referee equipment bags being stored under the ref stand. This is playable area and not allowed. It's a threat to players' safety and is against the rules. Store your referee bag behind the score table or in the locker room. When you check the net, remember the goal is exact height in the center and a maximum of 3/4 inch high on the sides. The antenna should be placed so that one is on each team's side of the net. There is no NFHS rule about which side antennas should be on, just that they must be on opposite sides of the net. If the home team has both antennas on the same side, choose to move the antenna on the left side of the net to that team's side. This makes it easier for your line judge should they need to adjust the antenna during a match. It is highly recommended that you use the net chain as a plumb line. After net height has been corrected, use your chain to check antenna placement and straightness. Instead of hanging your chain on the top of the net band, hang it on the top net string and line it up with the outside edge of the sideline. You can then straighten your antenna so that it is perfectly aligned to the outside of the line. If net tape is used, ensure that it's on the inside of the antenna. Non-playable area is the space located beyond the court and surrounding playable area. It includes walls, bleachers, team benches, the area behind team benches, and any other areas identified in the pre-match conference as unsuitable for play. Notice that the area between the benches and score table is out of play. Playable area near the bleachers is always cut off at the front of the bleachers. Understanding playable area is vital during tournaments or sub-varsity play where more than one match is played on adjacent courts at the same time. You can't play on an adjacent court's sideline extension before, during, or after play on the ball. This means you can't even follow through into the service area behind a neighboring court after playing the ball. As soon as a player steps onto an adjacent court or into that court's service area, the R1 should whistle the play dead and award the point to the opponent. The fault signal is out. Officials should communicate ground rules during the pre-match conference. Address anything that's different from the norm. Too often, officials are needlessly pointing out the color of court lines but failing to address important issues. If the court line is clearly marked, don't talk down to the captains and coaches about them. Playable area outside the boundary lines of the court must be a minimum of 6 feet. Preferably, there will be 10 feet of unobstructed space around the outside of the court in all directions. Make sure you address anything that encroaches on this space in the pre-match conference. Add a 6-foot mark to your net chain so that you can actually measure space. Pro tip, use a dab of a bright colored nail polish to mark your chain. If the bleachers, wall, or cheer team, as shown in Play Pick A, make it where the minimum 6 feet for serving is not available, the service area must be corrected. If cheer teams or bands are closer than 6 foot from the court, work with site management to move them out of the way. Remember, 10 feet of free space is preferred. If the minimum 6 feet for serving is not available, the service area must be expanded into the court and a new line marked, allowing servers to step in. Curtain divider walls are out. However, if that curtain is closer than 6 feet to the court, and in the referee's judgment a player would have been able to play the ball had it been 6 feet from the court, it becomes a judgment replay. In a judgment replay, the referee whistles the ball dead immediately when the ball contacts the object. The referee then determines if there was an athlete in position to play the ball had the object not been there. If they were there, issue a replay. If not, award the point to the opponent. If an individual playing the ball runs into the curtain and dislodges it before playing the ball, that is legal. However, a teammate cannot move it out of the way so that someone can play the ball. Ceiling suspended net systems are judgment replays. When the volleyball strikes the cables and/or the diagonal poles used to retract ceiling suspended net systems, the referee will stop play and determine if the ball was playable. The referee either signals out of bounds or replay. If a ball contacts a basketball backboard hanging over playable area in the down position used to play a basketball game, it's a judgment replay. The referee should immediately whistle the play dead and determine if an athlete would have been able to play the ball had the backboard not been there. The decision is either replay or point to the opponent. A backboard raised to the side or straight up towards the ceiling at any tilt is considered a playable overhead obstruction. A ball striking a raised backboard above a playable area shall remain in play provided the ball does not cross the plane of the net and is playable by a teammate. If a service toss contacts any part of a basketball backboard hanging in a vertical position over the service area, the referee whistles the ball dead, awards the point to the opponent, and signals out. If there is a balcony or raised running track above playable area that is attached to the wall, the horizontal underside of that balcony is considered ceiling and playable. However, the vertical side railing of the balcony is considered wall and out. Play Pick A illustrates how a player can retrieve a ball from a non-playable area if a body part is in contact with playable area during the athlete's contact of the ball. It is legal for 1 foot to be in playable area and 1 in non-playable area. When the ball is in non-playable area, The player can reach into non-playable area but must stay in contact with playable area. Play pick C shows a player legally playing a ball over playable area, then entering non-playable area after contact. Play pick B illustrates how being in contact with the bleachers or anything that gains an advantage is illegal. When the ball is being played near spectators, referees must be aware of potential fan interference. A fan can interfere with the ball, as in play pick A, with the player, as in play pick B, or even without actually contacting the player, but by interfering with the athlete's ability to get to the ball. Factors to consider when determining interference include: was the player and the ball in a legal location, and did the player have a legitimate opportunity to play the ball? There are times when both referees need to convene to decide if there was interference. The play should be replayed if there was interference, or point to the opponent if there was not interference. Attack lines must be solid and one color. It is recommended that boundary lines are solid and their color contrasts to the floor color. Taping of boundary lines is at the host's discretion. File an MSHSL contest report if there are large breaks in boundary lines that aren't taped or if attack lines aren't legal. The first and second referees should participate in a pre-match conference to discuss the responsibilities of each crew member. Topics of discussion should include clarifying the responsibilities and mechanics during penalty administration and a review of informal help signals. If you're at a tournament, you should also meet with other refs before the first match to confirm ground rules are being played the same on all courts. Whenever possible, adults should be used as line judges. Line judge flags must be used and the home school should be providing them. Additionally, line judges should be reminded by the schools to dress professionally, refrain from cell phone use during the game, limit contact with and avoid conversations with the crowd. It is recommended that host management identifies a safe place for line judges to sit between sets, separate from the crowd. While the teams warm up, the first referee should quickly meet with both line judges in a safe area near the court. Be friendly. Begin with introductions and thank the line judges for helping you. Explain that line judges are part of the officiating crew and should not engage in cheering for either team. Ask questions to quickly assess the knowledge and experience level of each line judge. Ask them to stand far enough off the line in base position that if the ball hits their foot, it is clearly out. Review signals as needed. The line judge should take his or her position and move in line with the extension of the end line when the ball is being served near the line judge's base position. The line judge shall watch for foot faults on the end line and move quickly back into base position for a view of the sideline. NFHS has given R1s the right to keep line judges on the same side throughout the match, even if teams are not switching sides. Minnesota will not be doing this. For all MSHSL varsity contests, teams will not be switching sides between sets. Line judges, however, will switch between each set. We recommend that this is also done during all sub-varsity contests. During the pre-match discussion, the first referee will make corner assignments for the line judges. Then, during pre-game announcements and the national anthem, the referees each stand to the right of the pole on the respective side of the court. The line judges from their side stands to their right at the attack line. Line judges do not hold their flag during the introductions and anthem. Instead, the LJ1 sets their flag on the R1 stand and the LJ2 leaves their flag on the score table. They will quickly retrieve their flags and walk to their assigned corner after the teams are whistled onto the court. Once the match has started, line judges should join the R1 on the attack line near the referee's stand during timeouts. This allows the R1 and line judges to discreetly share information. For example, the line judges should communicate to the R1 if a coach, player, or fan is being inappropriate toward them in any way. Additionally, we need to remember that line judges are not ball retrievers. If a school does not provide ball retrievers during the match, the players should run down any loose balls. Teams do not switch side between sets. The home team chooses their bench before the warm-ups begin, and both teams will stay on the same side for the entire match. Line judges, however, do switch sides between each set. Introduce yourself to your score crew and thank them for helping you. Ask them how they do things. Listen while they tell you how they've done things in the past. Then if you need something different, communicate that cordially. Be nice, and they will have your back when you need it. Be overly inclusive, especially at the beginning of the match, to ensure that your sub-pacing and game tempo is appropriate for their skill level. The rulebook states the official score should be seated between the Libero tracker and scoreboard operator. Please work with event management to ensure that this is happening at each institution for every match if the physical setup of the score table allows. Remember, make sure you are requesting assistance and not demanding it. When an improper server or illegal Libero replacement is recognized by the score table, the scorer or Libero tracker shall notify the second referee during the first dead ball. We want to make it clear that for girls volleyball in Minnesota this season, we are still requiring an 18-panel smooth volleyball in light blue, gray, and white color scheme with the NFHS mark. Sub-varsity contest must use an 18-panel smooth ball. While the varsity ball is preferred, there are no color restrictions or mark requirements for sub-varsity contest. In the upcoming Spring 2026 Minnesota boys season, we will continue to use the textures red, white, and blue swirl pattern ball for all varsity contests. No NFHS mark will be required this season. While the varsity ball is preferred, there are no texture, color restriction, or mark requirements for sub-varsity contest. It is the responsibility of coaches to educate school administration and the school community as to the sportsmanship nuances of the game of volleyball. This should include appropriate times cheerleaders may or may not cheer and proper location to cheer, appropriate comments, timing of announcements, and good sportsmanship by PA announcers, appropriate time for music and sound effects, and appropriate location and behavior of fans and mascots. The pregame administrative and medical timeout meeting will take place approximately 10 minutes before the match begins and should be led by a site administrator. The meeting will cover sportsmanship, what to do with a challenging situation, such as an unruly spectator or other disruption, and medical emergency planning. This meeting will get administrators, coaches, and officials on the same page going into the respective contest. Now it's time for the pre-match conference. It's time for the captain's meeting. The R1 raises their coin in the air and double whistles. The head coaches and captains from each team should immediately report to the scorers table for the pre-match conference and coin toss. At the conclusion of the conference, immediately ask the scoreboard operator to begin the 20-minute warm-up clock and report the result of the coin toss to the scorer. If a deciding set coin toss is necessary, the same raised coin and double whistle mechanic should be utilized by the second referee. Remember, the 3-minute clock should be started at the conclusion of the deciding set coin toss. During pre-match meeting, using a professional and courteous manner, efficiently cover relevant pre-match information. For example, asking coaches if their teams are properly and legally equipped and indicating whether or not there will be an intermission between sets 2 and 3 should be part of your standard pre-match. Remember, these are varsity players and coaches. In most cases, pointing out things like the color of the lines is not necessary. Early in the season, you may want to remind coaches and captains that they will not switch sides. Home teams have already chosen their side, so the visiting team will call the toss. The team that wins the toss has the choice of serve or receive. At the conclusion of the conference, immediately ask the scoreboard operator to begin the 20-minute warm-up clock and report the result of the coin toss to the scorer. The second referee collects team rosters during the pre-match conference. Coaches can make changes to the roster until 10 minutes remaining on the pregame clock. All rosters and lineups must be submitted to the second referee, not the scorer. When a team roster is not ready for submission during the pre-match conference, an unnecessary delay is assessed at the start of the set. If the roster is still not submitted at the 10-minute mark, a delay penalty is assessed. If a correction is made to the roster after the 10-minute mark, a delay penalty is assessed when the accuracy is discovered. Delay penalties result in a loss of rally point awarded to the opponent. If a uniform becomes damaged or has blood on it, a player may change uniform numbers without penalty. Simply correct the roster with a new number and update the lineup sheet if necessary. Across the state, we have reports of teams not immediately clearing the court at the end of their warm-up session, which results in a safety issue when one team is hitting or serving while the other is running on. In order to better facilitate this switch of possession between the two teams, the R2 will give a double tweet warning whistle 15 seconds prior to the horn. This also gives teams the opportunity to shag balls as a show of sportsmanship during the last few seconds of their court time. The second referee shall use a double whistle when 15 seconds are left on the timeout countdown clock and when 30 seconds are left between sets in order to warn teams that the timeout or intermission is about to end and they need to return to the court. The timeouts and intermissions between sets should end with a horn. If a timeout ends early because both teams have returned to the court and coach instruction has finished, the R2 still needs to double whistle. Then the scoreboard operator will immediately blow the horn while the official shows the number of timeouts taken. The only time a horn might not be used to end a timeout or an intermission is when multiple courts are going on in the same facility. In that case, a long single whistle can be used by the R2 in place of the horn. This helps avoid any confusion that might be caused by horns constantly going off or if a court is using a flip score and doesn't have a horn. After the horn ending the timeout, both the R1 and R2 show the number of timeouts taken. Before giving the court back to the R1, the R2 must quickly confirm that both teams have all 6 players back on the court and checks both benches for last-minute subs or timeout requests and to ensure that the playable area around the court is clear of water bottles, towels, or other obstacles that may have been left out during the timeout. The body of a uniform number must clearly contrast to the body of the uniform, regardless of trim. Legal numbers are 0 to 99. Double zero is illegal as a uniform number. No leading zeros will be allowed after 2028. The Libero uniform top must clearly contrast with the uniform top worn by the rest of the team and conform to all other uniform rules. The Minnesota State High School League has provided the following additional guidelines for uniforms. The colors in column A are considered dark. The colors in column B are considered light. When applying this guideline to volleyball, athletic directors and coaches must understand how this works. If your regular player uniform is from column A, the number on that uniform must be from column B, and the number cannot be from the same color family. For example, you could not put a light blue number on a royal blue or navy jersey. In the same manner, if a regular player is in the color from column A, the Libero jersey must be a color from column B. Black regular player jerseys and royal blue or red Libero jerseys are no longer allowed by the Minnesota State High School League. Since the uniform on the left has one predominant color, black, any contrasting color on that jersey could be used as the predominant color of the Libero uniform, and black can be used as an accent color if you wish. So your regular players could wear the black, and your Libero could wear the orange, and those uniforms would be compliant. The team jersey in the middle has 2 predominant colors, a light blue and a navy. Neither of those colors could be used as the Libero jersey. So the middle team jersey would be compliant if the jersey on the left, the white jersey, was being used, but it would be non-compliant if the Libero was wearing the jersey on the right. The team jersey in the middle has 2 predominant colors, lime green and navy blue. So the jersey on the left would not be compliant if worn by the libero. However, the jersey on the right would be compliant and could be legally worn by the libero. Any combination of uniform bottoms may be worn, including shorts, spandex, pants, or skirts, as long as they are light colored. As a side note, different combinations of sleeve lengths are also allowed. If athletes wear a visible undergarment, it can now be black, white, gray, or match the predominant color of the uniform. All team members, other than the libero, sporting visible undergarments must wear matching colors. If a regular player is wearing a visible undergarment, it must match the color of undergarment worn by all other regular players wearing an undergarment. The libero may wear a different color visible undergarment. Just remember, if the libero becomes a regular player in a subsequent set, they will need to remove the undergarment or change to match their teammates. Compression sleeves do not have to match teammates or the uniform color. Visible undergarments, like tights, must match the corresponding uniform color or be black, white, or gray, and all regular teammates must match. The libero may be different. Multiple manufacturer logos, trademarks, or references are allowed on uniform waistbands. This ruling is for waistbands only. No longer include the waistband when considering the legality of uniform bottoms. Ignoring the waistband, only one manufacturer's logo, trademark, or reference, which is no more than 2¼ inch square, is permitted on each uniform piece. Officials should review uniforms for legality during warm-up. If an illegal uniform is identified, both officials should agree there is a problem, then notify the head coach about the illegal uniform. If the coach cannot fix the problem for the match, a single loss of rally point, regardless of the number of uniforms with problems, shall be awarded to the opponent at the beginning of the match, and the MSHSL shall be notified. Also notify your local assigner. The goal is to allow teams to compete provided there are no safety concerns and allow the state office to work with schools to correct the issues. If a player removes any part of the uniform top or bottom in the playing area, a yellow card is charged to the head coach for unsporting conduct. A red card would be charged for subsequent offenses. Any securely fastened hair control device that does not protrude from the head or can be easily dislodged is allowed. The previous size limitation for hair clips has been eliminated. Common sense needs to be applied to the hair adornments rule. In the first play pick, while the individual beads may be securely attached to the hair strands, there's an increased risk to teammates or opponents because the beads are not secured close to the head. Officials, if you're concerned with the safety of any player's hair adornment, work with the coach so that the player has an opportunity to make their hair legal. The second play pick shows how this hairstyle was made legal by fastening the beads closer to the head. Hair chimes are considered jewelry and are not permitted. No jewelry is permitted below the chin. Small secured studs or post jewelry may be worn above the chin. If an earring extends below the earlobe, it is not a stud and must be removed. Below the chin jewelry is not allowed and taping over jewelry is not permitted. Medical alerts may be taped to the body with the alert visible. Religious jewelry and other items may be worn under the uniform if taped to the body. Minnesota allows religious string bracelets to be taped to the wrist if completely covered. If jewelry is found on a player after the game has started, the referee should assess a delay warning. If the jewelry has not been removed or made legal by the time the scorer has recorded the delay warning, then the player must either be subbed out for a legal player or the coach needs to take a timeout so the player can become legal and the player can stay in. Don't hit teams with double jeopardy. An unnecessary delay should be assessed to a player wearing illegal equipment who attempts to enter into the set. For example, if a player wearing jewelry enters the sub-zone, the R2 should immediately deny the substitution and the R1 issues an administrative yellow card warning. After making her equipment legal, the player may sub in the next rally, or the team may take a timeout to allow the player to fix the problem, then the sub may occur immediately after the timeout is complete. For a second or an additional unnecessary delay in the same set, an administrative red card penalty should be assessed. Players may wear head coverings for religious reasons. Such headwear must fit securely and be made of non-abrasive or soft material. Players may protect facial injuries by wearing a protective face mask. The mask must be made of a hard material free of protrusions and molded to the face. Lineups are due to the R2 with 2 minutes left on the warm-up countdown clock. Prior to the first set of the match, lineups are due to the second referee no later than 2 minutes before the end of the timed pre-match warm-up. In the play pick example above, the lineup is submitted late with 1 minute and 30 seconds remaining on the warm-up clock. When a head coach submits a late lineup, an unnecessary delay warning is assessed at the start of set number 1. The R2 should work with the scorer to ensure this warning is recorded appropriately on the score sheet. For sets 2, 3, 4, and 5, lineups are due to the second referee no later than 1 minute prior to the end of the timed interval between sets. If a head coach submits a lineup late, as shown in this play pick, an unnecessary delay warning is assessed to start that set. If the head coach has still not submitted the lineup by the end of the timed interval between sets, an unnecessary delay penalty is assessed to start that set, which results in the loss of rally and point awarded to the opponent. The head coach is required to indicate the playing captain with a C next to the player's number on the lineup. If the libero is captain, a regular player must be identified as an alternate captain with an A next to that player's number. If a coach accidentally writes a player number as both the regular player and a libero, the coach may choose which position to replace. In this example, the coach could make 12 the libero or a regular player starting in position 5. If 12 stays as libero, the regular player is replaced and a substitution is charged prior to the start of the set. If 12 stays as the regular player, a new libero player may be assigned without penalty. If a clerical error is made on the lineup by listing a libero number that no team member is wearing, the error shall be corrected without penalty. The buzzer goes and it's match time. All players may start on the end line for the anthem and introductions. After the referee whistles the teams onto the court, the starting players are supposed to go straight to their starting positions and the subs straight to the bench. Starters should not leave the court to receive additional instructions or to cheer. If a quick team cheer is done on the court, starters should be in position on the floor and subs at the bench by the time the R1 climbs onto the stand and the R2 grabs the lineup sheets from the scorer's table. Head coaches must be at least 6 feet from the sideline when standing during play. It is the second referee's responsibility to ensure the coach remains in the designated zone during play. During play, the head coach may stand on their respective side anywhere in the blue as illustrated by this mechanigram as long as they are 6 foot from the sideline of the court during a rally. Assistant coaches must remain seated during play. During dead balls, the head coach and one assistant coach may approach the sideline. The assistant coach may only instruct their team. They may not speak to the officials or officiating crew. The left play pick shows how one assistant coach can provide instruction during dead balls. The right play pick shows how the assistant coach cannot stand during live balls. Assistant coaches may alternate who stands during dead balls throughout the match, but only one assistant coach may stand at a time. If the head coach sits down, only one assistant can stand and only during dead balls. In Minnesota, R2s use the lineup sheet submitted by the coach to check the starting lineup at the beginning of each set. An R2 can use a lineup card like the one shown here as needed based on the proficiency of the score table and the skill level of the R2. When checking lineups before the set begins, identify the captain before sending on the libero. This way, if the libero is the captain, then the alternate captain has been identified. When checking lineups before the set begins, it's preferable to check the receiving side first. But if the serving side is ready and the receiving side is still milling around, you can check the one that's ready first to keep the match moving. Ensure the score and libero tracker also check the lineups at the beginning of each set. Identify the captain before sending in the libero. If the libero is that captain, identify the alternate captain, send in the libero, then identify the libero as captain. Now we'll discuss game interruptions like intermissions, subs, timeouts, and decision review. A 3-minute timed interval is required between each set. An optional 5-minute intermission between set 2 and 3 is allowed in conjunction with a planned special recognition or promotional activity. Site managers should let the officials know that an intermission will be used when the officials arrive at the venue. If an intermission is used, 5 minutes should be placed on the clock between sets instead of the standard 3 minutes. It is a coach's responsibility to have his or her team ready at the conclusion of the intermission. While it's best practice to both verbalize and signal when requesting a timeout, either verbal or nonverbal requests for timeouts are permitted. While it's best practice to both verbalize and signal when requesting a timeout, either verbal or nonverbal requests for timeouts by head coaches and captains are permitted. During a dead ball, assistant coaches may ask the second referee to review the accuracy of the score, verify the number of timeouts used, verify substitutions used by their team, request the serving order of their team, or verify the proper server for the opponent. Regardless of previous history or familiarity, all coaches must be treated consistently and fairly. A good referee listens rather than reacts when a coach genuinely inquires about a non-judgment play. Listen, provide a quick response using rules language, then give the game back to the first referee. The second referee has the task to serve and protect and can certainly preempt or diffuse potential unsporting conduct by a coach or another participant. When a team requests a substitution, the official will administer 2 short whistles. The official will rotate their forearms around each other with closed fists at shoulder height 2 times to signal the substitution. Normally, this will be done by the R2. However, in this play pick, the R1 is doing it, so we assume that the R1 is working alone in this situation. Teams can drastically decrease the sub time and make score tables happy by ensuring that the scorer can see the number of both subs. Always have your exiting player be closer to the net so that the sub doesn't screen the outgoing player's number. Warming up between sets is allowed. Teams must remain on their side of the net in their playable area. No hitting or serving over the net is allowed. Volleyballs may only be used on their own side of the playing area. After a deciding set coin toss, the R2 indicates the serving team. In Minnesota, if a coach wants the officials to review a decision based on what they believe is an inaccurate application of a rule, they do so by appealing to the R2. The R2 shares the information with the R1, and if the decision is not a judgment, but a rules question, the R1 will get off the stand and go to the score table. Together, the R1 and R2 will find the rule reference and give the explanation to the coach. The coach should never cross the court to talk to the R1. Judgment calls like ball handling, back row, and in-out are not reviewable. If a coach insists on a decision review for a judgment call, they have earned an unnecessary delay. If the question has to do with the interpretation of a rule, then the officials should quickly work together to identify the correct rules reference. If the rule's interpretation by the referee is found to be incorrect, the result is either a side-out point or a replay. If the rule's interpretation is correct, then the coach is charged with a timeout. If the coach doesn't have a timeout, a delay is charged. We will now discuss how to deal with injuries. Risk minimization is an official's primary responsibility. If an injury occurs during play, either referee can suspend play by sounding a loud double whistle and holding up both hands. Both officials should signal a referee's timeout. Injury procedure states that the first referee remains on the stand while the second referee allows the injured player's coach or medical staff to attend to the injured player. Line judges should take their timeout position near the first referee. The R2 should refrain from taking a position near the injured player. The R2 should explain to the coach what their options are. An injured or ill player may continue to play. You may substitute for the injured or ill player. You may replace the injured or ill player with a legal libero replacement, or you can take any allotted timeouts remaining. Begin your 30-second timer after the coach has been given their options of what to do regarding the injured player. Remember, the injured player does not have to be moved within the 30 seconds. Medical decides when it's safe to move the player. Once the injured player is removed from the playing surface safely, the second referee follows the substitution protocol, signal and whistle, ensuring that the substitute is recognized and recorded by the scorer. If the play was interrupted, the referees will administer a replay and continue play. The injured player who is illegally replaced may return to the set. If a rally is interrupted for injury, a replay is issued. A legally replaced injured player may later return to the set. Teams may substitute during an injury timeout for the libero replacement if the libero is injured or ill. In the play pick, the libero in yellow is injured and cannot continue. The libero replacement number 8 must enter as the replacement. Next, the head coach may request a substitution. Teams no longer must wait until the next completed rally to make this substitution. No other substitutions may take place at this time if the play resumed with a replay. Play shall be suspended as soon as an official recognizes blood on a player's body or uniform, the equipment, or playing surface. Team personnel can aid a player. If there's blood on a jersey or player equipment, it must be appropriately cleaned or removed. The referees will allow a player to change jerseys away from the court area. Host management may need to identify a place to do so. The second referee should scan the court and check the game balls to ensure there is no blood. Medical staff can attend to the court and game balls with the appropriate solution to remove any blood. If a uniform becomes damaged or has blood on it, a player may change uniform numbers without penalty. Simply correct the roster with the new number and update the lineup sheet if necessary. Any athlete who exhibits signs, symptoms, or behaviors consistent with a concussion, such as loss of consciousness, headache, dizziness, confusion, or balance problems, shall be immediately removed from the contest and shall not return until cleared by an appropriate healthcare provider. It is not the responsibility of an official to assess the potential concussion. It is appropriate for an official to suggest to a coach to attend to a player exhibiting the above signs. Refrain from assessing that you think the player has a concussion. If a team has exhausted their allowable 18 substitutions or no legal substitutes are available and an injury occurs where a replacement is needed, a team may be granted an exceptional substitute in priority order. First, by a teammate who has never played in the set or a player who has played in that position. Second, by any non-libero teammate on the bench who is not currently being replaced by the libero. Third, by a libero if no other possible substitutes exist. and the libero must change into the jersey of the regular players. The substitute counts as a team substitution, and the injured player cannot re-enter that set if replaced by an exceptional substitute. Now we'll review some mechanics reminders. Teams will not switch sides between sets. Postseason protocols are to be determined. After signaling net fault, identify the player committing the fault. For numbers less than 6, use the hand on the side of the fault. For numbers 6 to 9, the right hand is the base hand and it's filled first. For double-digit numbers, the first digit is shown with the right or both hands, and the second digit with the left or both hands. Communication is an essential proactive approach officials use to alleviate questions about no calls on the court during play. The first referee can signal the ball was contacted below the height of the net or the back row player was behind the attack line. The second referee does not use or mirror these signals. These signals should be used sparingly. A referee shall stop play when a player gains an illegal advantage by contacting a floor obstacle, wall, or any team member. Team members are defined as coaches, teammates, managers, certified athletic trainers, and players. The illegal hit signal is used to indicate this fault. When multiple courts are in use, the use of multiple horns may cause confusion for players, coaches, officials, and spectators. In that situation, the second referee may end a timeout or interval between sets with a long whistle instead of the timer's horn. Teams will show sportsmanship by telling each other good game with a post-game handshake. After the match is the only time teams will shake hands. We went over pre-match protocol earlier, and you'll remember that there is no handshake after the introductions at the start of the match. Next, we will discuss sportsmanship. High school playing rules are written to encourage sportsmanship. Participation in these programs should promote respect, integrity, and sportsmanship. However, for these ideals to occur, everyone involved in these programs must be doing their part. There must be a collaborative working relationship between contest officials and game administration to promote good sportsmanship and safely conduct the contest. Everyone has their roles to play in creating a positive atmosphere at matches. Sportsmanship or good behavior is about treating one another with respect and exhibiting appropriate behavior. It's about being fair, honest, and caring. When these types of appropriate behavior occur, competitive play is more enjoyable for everyone. During dead balls, the head coach and one assistant coach may approach the sideline. The assistant coach may only instruct their team. They may not speak to the officials or officiating crew. While most coaches like the new coaching box rules, some frustration came with the bench celebration rules that accompanied it. The biggest misconception is that coaches felt their substitutes were not allowed to stand and cheer at all. That is incorrect. Substitutes may stand during dead balls to cheer, but they must stay near their bench. That means at least 6 feet from the sideline. The yellow area above shows where the substitutes could cheer from. There should be no rushing the sideline or standing before the ball is dead. Additionally, the MSHSL Tournament Committee asked that negative cheering be avoided. While it's part of a rally sport to cheer when your team causes an opponent error, excessive cheering approaching taunting has been displayed by some teams on net serves or blatant ball handling errors. Normal excitement at a side-out point is fine. Coaches, please be aware of anything that crosses the line and address it with your team. In most cases, officials will need only to alert site managers to this inappropriate behavior during the next dead ball, timeout, or intermission. However, bench celebrations that continue after teams are ready for play and/or move outside of the bench area may be deemed excessive. In that case, officials need to work through the head coach. Delay sanctions beginning with a warning, then moving to a penalty are appropriate if the issue is a disruption to the normal return of play game pace. Taunting or unsporting actions or excessive disruptive reactions may result in an unsporting conduct penalty. When a yellow card is issued for unsporting conduct to the head coach, assistant coach or coaches, or the team bench, the head coach may continue to stand. If a red unsporting conduct card is issued to the head coach, assistant coach or coaches, or team bench, all coaches will be required to remain seated for the duration of the match. Post-match. At the end of the match, after initialing the score sheet, the R2 quickly gathers both referees' ref bags and meets the first referee at a predetermined location just off the court. The two exit the gym together. Toot and scoot. Avoid any discussion with coaches, players, or spectators. Staying together helps you protect each other. Proceed to a private location where a productive post-match conference can be conducted. If officials encounter equipment safety issues or illegal uniforms, they must complete a post-match contest report on the Minnesota State High School League Central Hub. League staff will determine if any action or penalties are necessary. If a disqualification occurs, an ejection report must be completed. If you have any questions, please reach out to your regional rules interpreter for clarification.